15 Golden Age stars who were shockingly rich. When we think of today's wealthy celebrities, we picture tech investors like Ashton Kutcher or business moguls like Rihanna. But long before stars had Instagram side hustles, a select group of Golden Age celebrities were quietly amassing fortunes that would make even today's influencers jealous. Hollywood's Golden Age wasn't just about fame, it was about stealth wealth, revealed a former studio accountant who handled several major stars. While most actors lived paycheck to paycheck despite their glamorous image, a savvy few were building empires worth billions in today's dollars, and they did it without a single social media post. What makes these financial success stories particularly surprising is how they happened in an era when studios controlled nearly everything. These stars found remarkable ways to break free from the system, securing ownership stakes, and building business empires when most of their peers were simply cashing studio paychecks. The biggest misconception is that stars got rich from making movies, explained an entertainment business analyst. The truly wealthy stars understood that fame was just leverage, a way to access investment opportunities and ownership positions that created lasting wealth. In the following minutes, we'll explore 15 Golden Age celebrities whose extraordinary business acumen created fortunes that would be impressive even by today's standards. From cowboy stars who owned actual cattle ranches to actresses who ran major studios, these weren't just performers who got lucky, they were brilliant business minds who happened to be famous.
I was wondering what time you got down to the office. How did that little man of yours pull you out of bed?
1. Fred MacMurray, Disney's secret tycoon. While playing an average middle-class dad on My Three Sons, Fred MacMurray was quietly becoming Disney's first millionaire actor and one of Hollywood's richest figures ever. The shocking pivot came when MacMurray took his entire TV salary, a massive $150,000 per episode in the 1960s, and poured it into California walnut ranches. This single investment strategy transformed his acting income into one of Hollywood's greatest fortunes, creating a portfolio worth over $100 million at his death in 1991. Equivalent to $210 million today. At the height of his wealth, MacMurray owned a staggering 1,700 acres of prime California agricultural land, much of it in Sonoma County, where he maintained the state's largest commercial walnut operation. While other stars bought mansions and sports cars, MacMurray purchased timber forests and working farms. TV made him famous. Investments made him rich, explained a financial analyst who studied MacMurray's portfolio. When his Hollywood peers were struggling in retirement, MacMurray was earning more from his walnut harvest than he ever made acting. The ultimate proof of his financial genius, MacMurray's agricultural empire has likely appreciated to several times its original value in the decades since his death, potentially making his heirs billionaires from his farming investments alone.
I was getting into show business, but I wasn't. I was a grape stomper. And I was sent out to a field, and I said, stop.
2. Lucille Ball, the studio mogul. When CBS refused to film I Love Lucy in Hollywood instead of broadcasting live from New York, Lucille Ball didn't just accept their decision. She created her own production company and changed television forever. In a stunning power move unheard of for a female performer in 1951, Ball and husband DC Arnaz formed Desilu Productions, retaining complete ownership of their show. This meant when CBS paid $4.3 million, $44 million today, for rebroadcast rights to the first 180 episodes in 1957, the money went directly to Ball and Arnaz, not the network. The truly shocking wealth moment came after her divorce, when Ball bought out her ex-husband's share of Desilu in 1962 for $2.5 million, becoming the first woman to run a major Hollywood studio. Under her leadership, Desilu launched iconic series including Star Trek and Mission Impossible, franchises that continue generating billions today. She didn't just star in shows, she owned them, explained a television historian. In a single business move, Ball transformed from a well-paid actress to the most powerful woman in Hollywood. The empire building culminated in 1967 when she sold Desilu to Gulf plus Western for $17 million, $144 million today, a staggering amount that represented ownership value, not just celebrity salary.
It was a stock thing with them. You know how the first show, right. And when I was there, I was showing my act. And this cat used to do it to everybody. You'd get out there.
3. Bob Hope, the land baron. While Americans knew Bob Hope for his USO tours and comedy specials, the entertainer was secretly becoming one of California's largest private landowners. The comedian's most jaw-dropping acquisition was an 8,650-acre parcel in Palm Springs, purchased in the 1960s for pennies on the dollar and sold by his estate in 2016 for $130 million. This single property holding was just one piece of a massive real estate empire that included huge tracts in San Fernando Valley and Malibu, acquired when California land was still relatively affordable. He joked for a living and laughed all the way to the bank, remarked a real estate developer familiar with Hope's portfolio. While celebrities today brag about their house flips, Hope was quietly accumulating land parcels larger than some cities. The true measure of Hope's stealth wealth came after his death in 2003 at age 100, when financial analysts were stunned to discover his estate was worth between $400 million and $1 billion. A fortune accumulated through land holdings that most fans never knew existed. Even more remarkable, Hope maintained this extraordinary land empire while creating a public image centered entirely on his entertainment career, with most Americans having no idea he was one of the country's most significant property owners.
In and out the jailhouse, in and out the jailhouse, and now he's far away.
4. Gene Autry, the multimedia cowboy billionaire. While children played with his cowboy action figures, singing star Gene Autry was building a business empire that included radio stations, television networks, hotels, and eventually an entire baseball team. Autry's most strategic wealth move came in 1961 when he paid just $350,000, about $3.3 million today, to become the founding owner of the Los Angeles Angels baseball franchise, a team now worth approximately $2.2 billion. This single investment generated a 6,285% return, dwarfing anything he earned from his singing and acting career. He built a ranch, then bought the town around it, observed a media historian. Autry understood that while hit records might generate temporary income, owning broadcast stations and sports franchises created permanent wealth. By the 1980s, Autry had assembled a breathtaking portfolio that included the Golden West Broadcasting Network, multiple radio stations, the KTLA television station in Los Angeles, several hotels, and vast real estate holdings, all built from his initial singing cowboy fame. When Autry died in 1998, financial experts estimated his net worth at over $320 million, approximately $560 million today, a sum so substantial he could fund the $100 million Autry Museum of the American West entirely through his estate.
Any of the acrobatics or anything, but they were very complicated chairs, and the daily...
5. Jimmy Stewart, the stealth investor. Jimmy Stewart's folksy demeanor and modest lifestyle concealed one of Hollywood's most sophisticated investors, a financial strategist whose stock portfolio would have impressed Wall Street professionals. Stewart's wealth breakthrough came during his military service in World War II, when he made a decision that seemed insane to other stars. He suspended his acting career at its peak to fly actual combat missions over Germany. While this patriotic choice interrupted his earnings, it created the perfect opportunity for his existing investments to compound without Hollywood's lifestyle expenses draining them. Upon returning to acting, Stewart executed another financial masterstroke by negotiating one of Hollywood's first profit participation deals for the 1950 film Winchester 73. When the studio couldn't meet his salary demands, he accepted a percentage of profits instead, ultimately earning far more than his normal fee as the film succeeded. He played humble, but his portfolio was pure power, explained a financial historian. While his contemporaries were buying bigger mansions, Stewart was acquiring early positions in growth stocks that would multiply many times over during the post-war boom. Most shocking to Hollywood insiders was Stewart's discipline. He lived in the same modest Beverly Hills home for over 40 years, while his investment accounts quietly grew to over $30 million, approximately $53 million today, a fortune built through compound interest rather than acting paychecks.
A little white Maltese dog, and your laws have prevented me from coming home.
6. Elizabeth Taylor, Diamonds and Deals. Elizabeth Taylor didn't just collect diamonds. She built a business empire that generated more wealth than all her films combined. Taylor's financial transformation began with her unprecedented $1 million salary for Cleopatra in 1963, making her the first actress to break the $1 million barrier. But her true business genius emerged when she negotiated a 10% ownership stake in the film's profits, instead of just accepting the record-breaking paycheck. Her most lucrative business move came with the launch of her perfume White Diamonds in 1991. Unlike today's celebrity fragrance deals that typically involve minimal involvement, Taylor negotiated substantial ownership stakes. This single product has generated over $1.5 billion in revenue, with Taylor's estate continuing to earn approximately $80 million annually from fragrance sales alone, decades after her death. She loved jewelry and bought the mines that made it, observed a business journalist. While other stars were spending their salaries on diamonds, Taylor was creating businesses that generated enough profit to buy entire jewelry companies. When Taylor died in 2011, financial experts valued her estate between $600 million and $1 billion, most from her business ventures rather than acting roles. The ultimate proof of her business acumen? Her jewelry collection alone sold for $156.8 million at auction, with individual pieces she'd purchased as investments appreciating over 3,000%.
Hope is loaded, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got money that he can't even count.
What do you do?
They tell a story about Hope is playing golf.
7. Bing Crosby, the multimedia mogul. Behind Bing Crosby's relaxed crooning was a business shark who built one of entertainment's largest fortunes through technological investments that changed broadcasting itself. Crosby's wealth explosion began with a single strategic move, investing heavily in Ampex, the company that pioneered commercial tape recording technology after World War II. This investment not only made him rich, but revolutionized broadcasting by making pre-recorded radio programs technically feasible, a technology Crosby himself needed for his popular radio show. Behind the crooner charm was a razor-sharp businessman, noted a media historian. While other performers were spending their paychecks on Hollywood mansions, Crosby was buying early stakes in technologies that would transform the entire entertainment industry. His business empire expanded dramatically in 1946 when he became part owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball team and continued growing through investments in oil wells, technology companies, and television production that made his entertainment earnings look tiny by comparison. By his death, Crosby had amassed approximately $400 million in today's dollars, a fortune so large and diversified that many financial experts consider him the prototype for modern celebrity investors like Ashton Kutcher and Jay-Z.
Human beings getting tramped by a horse. It upsets my peace of mind.
8. William Boyd, Hopalong Cassidy, the rights revolutionary. William Boyd made the single most audacious business gamble in early television history, and it paid off spectacularly. By the late 1940s, Boyd's career was fading as the B-Western movie genre declined. In a move industry executives considered financial suicide, Boyd spent his entire life savings, $350,000, to purchase the rights to his old Hopalong Cassidy films and the character itself. He didn't just play a cowboy, he owned the saddle, the gun, and the network time slot, explained a television historian. When television exploded in popularity, Boyd owned something broadcasters desperately needed, content, at the exact moment they needed it most. This single high-risk investment transformed Boyd from a fading actor to a merchandising kingpin overnight. NBC began broadcasting his films in 1949, triggering a licensing explosion that put Hopalong Cassidy on everything from lunchboxes to children's clothing, generating over $800 million, in today's dollars, in merchandising revenue, with Boyd owning the licensing rights rather than a studio. By 1950, Boyd was earning approximately $800,000 annually, about $9.5 million today, from merchandising alone, far more than he had ever made as an actor. All because he bet everything on ownership when everyone told him old films were worthless.
Look, I'm frightfully sorry, but I've got an awful shock for you. Ted has killed a man, darlings.
No.
9. Cary Grant, the elegant mogul. Cary Grant's sophisticated screen persona concealed one of Hollywood's shrewdest business minds, a contract negotiator who rewrote the rules for how stars got paid. Grant's wealth strategy crystallized in 1936 with a shocking power move. He became one of the first major stars to work without a studio contract when the studio system was at its most powerful. This unprecedented gamble allowed him to negotiate deals on a film-by-film basis, immediately quadrupling his per-movie compensation. His true financial masterstroke came with the 1959 film Operation Petticoat, where instead of accepting a $750,000 salary, he negotiated for 75% of the profits, a deal that earned him over $3 million, equivalent to $29 million today, from that single film. Behind the tux was a calculating mind, noted an entertainment lawyer. While other stars focused on salary demands, Grant was quietly accumulating ownership stakes in the actual film negatives, assets that continued generating revenue decades after production ended. Beyond film, Grant made a fortune through an early investment in the Fabergé perfume company that later became extremely valuable. By his death in 1986, he had accumulated over $60 million, $157 million today, primarily through ownership stakes rather than acting fees.
That should take longer than a few minutes. Then that glasses fitted because her feet are killing her?
Sure. She couldn't see where she parked the car.
10. Gracie Allen and George Burns, comedy's power couple. While their act portrayed Gracie as scatterbrained and George as exasperated, behind the scenes, this comedy duo built one of early television's greatest business empires. Their wealth-generating innovation came when they formed Burns and Allen, incorporated to produce their own radio and television shows, a structure that gave them ownership of their content rather than simply being network employees. This company controlled their hit CBS series, The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, which ran from 1950 to 1958, allowing them to profit from both initial broadcasts and eventual reruns. They made America laugh, and laughed straight into luxury, observed a broadcasting historian. When most radio stars simply collected paychecks, Burns and Allen were creating a production company that owned valuable content assets. Decades before that approach became standard practice. The couple's business portfolio expanded dramatically through strategic investments in California real estate and oil production during the post-war boom. Most impressively, their financial structure continued generating wealth long after Gracie's retirement and death in 1964, supporting Burns for nearly 32 more years. When Burns died in 1996 at age 100, his estate was valued at approximately $30 million, $54 million today. A fortune built through content ownership rather than just performance income.
The vessel with the pestle.
Yes, but you don't want the vessel with the pestle. You want the chalice from the palace.
I don't want the vessel with the pestle. I want the chalice from the what?
The chalice from the palace.
11. Danny Kaye, the diversified entertainer. While audiences loved Danny Kaye for his physical comedy and verbal gymnastics, the entertainer was quietly building a business portfolio that spanned professional sports, music publishing, and international broadcasting rights. Kaye's most unexpected investment came in 1977 when he joined the ownership group of the Seattle Mariners baseball team, a venture that reflected his understanding of sports franchises as appreciating assets decades before team valuations exploded. This single investment has multiplied many times over as MLB franchise values have soared. He danced, sang, and quietly stacked millions, remarked a business journalist. While performing his manic comedy routines on screen, Kaye was methodically acquiring music publishing rights and foreign broadcasting interests that generated passive income regardless of his performance schedule. What made Kaye's financial approach particularly impressive was its international scope. At a time when most celebrities limited investments to domestic opportunities, Kaye was securing ownership stakes in foreign media markets that were just beginning to develop, positions that would appreciate dramatically as global entertainment expanded. By his death in 1987, Kaye had amassed a fortune estimated at over $10 million, $25 million today, a sum reflecting strategic investments across multiple industries that continued generating returns long after his final performance.
Up for 7 hours.
Mr. Hughes, will you look up to the camera a minute, up there? That's it. Well, just getting a shot of you, that's all.
12. Howard Hughes, Hollywood's billionaire. Howard Hughes began as a film producer and occasional actor before transforming his Hollywood connections into one of the world's largest personal fortunes. Hughes's wealth explosion began when he leveraged profits from his family's valuable oil drill bit patents to finance his entry into filmmaking with controversial hits like Hell's Angels. But his true business genius emerged when he used his film industry success as a springboard into aviation and defense contracting, sectors that would eventually make him billions. Hollywood was just his side hustle, observed a business historian. Even while dating Hollywood's most beautiful actresses and producing major films, Hughes was simultaneously building Hughes Aircraft Company into a defense contracting giant and acquiring Transworld Airlines, TWA, creating wealth on a scale that made his entertainment earnings look like pocket change. By the time of his death in 1976, Hughes's net worth was estimated between $1.5 billion and $2.5 billion, approximately $7.5 to $12.5 billion today, making him one of the world's richest individuals and demonstrating how entertainment could be used as a launching pad into far more lucrative industries.
He said, well, that's a good point, except that how many Hudsons are there? Okay, so I had to agree with that.
13. Rock Hudson, the strategic star. Rock Hudson's carefully constructed image as Hollywood's ideal leading man concealed a surprisingly shrewd business mind that translated acting income into substantial wealth through revolutionary contract negotiations and property investments. Hudson's financial breakthrough came when he negotiated one of Hollywood's first non-exclusive contracts with Universal Pictures, an arrangement that allowed him to work for other studios while maintaining his Universal relationship. This single contract innovation effectively doubled his earning potential during his peak years. His roles were romantic, but his strategy was ruthless, noted an entertainment attorney. While other Universal stars remained locked in restrictive contracts, Hudson acquired valuable studio properties and development rights that appreciated dramatically over decades. Hudson built extraordinary wealth through targeted real estate investments in Beverly Hills when prime locations were still relatively affordable. Rather than purchasing showy mansions, he acquired income-generating properties in neighborhoods that would experience explosive growth. By his death in 1985, Hudson had accumulated approximately $10 million, $26 million today, a fortune generated primarily through property appreciation and business investments structured through corporations that protected his assets despite the personal challenges created by his hidden identity in an intolerant era.
In November. This will be an uphill effort. I'm starting late. There are 10 men.
14. Shirley Temple, child star to wealthy diplomat. Shirley Temple avoided the financial exploitation that destroyed most child stars through a combination of parental protection and sophisticated investment strategies that transformed her early earnings into lasting wealth. The foundation of Temple's financial security came when her parents ensured her substantial childhood earnings. She was one of Hollywood's top box office draws from 1935 to 1938, were properly saved and invested under the Coogan Law, which mandated trusts for child performers. She started rich and made it permanent, observed a financial planner. Unlike virtually every other major child star whose earnings vanished through family mismanagement or poor advice, Temple's childhood fortune was protected and professionally invested, creating financial independence that lasted her entire life. Temple's wealth expanded dramatically when she joined the boards of major corporations, including the Walt Disney Company and Del Monte Foods. These positions provided not just director compensation, but valuable stock options and investment insights that enhanced her portfolio's performance. By her death in 2014, Temple had accumulated approximately $30 million, a fortune reflecting both her protected childhood earnings and decades of subsequent investment growth across multiple asset classes.
Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just
15. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, merchandising pioneers. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans didn't just play Western heroes. They created a licensing and merchandising empire that generated far more wealth than their performance careers ever could. Their business revolution began in the late 1940s when, unlike most performers who were content receiving salaries, they fought for and won ownership rights to their names, likenesses, and the characters they portrayed. This unprecedented arrangement allowed them to control their commercial image just as television was expanding their popularity. They didn't just sell westerns, they sold America's childhood back to itself, explained a licensing expert. At their peak popularity, there were more than 2,400 different Roy Rogers and Dale Evans products on the market, from lunchboxes to clothing lines. While most stars received only small royalties, Rogers and Evans owned these licensing rights outright, creating a merchandising empire generating over $800 million in today's dollars during the early 1950s alone. Their business empire expanded dramatically when they established Roy Rogers restaurants, which grew to over 600 locations. They also created branded tourist attractions, including the Roy Rogers Dale Evans Museum, generating both admission revenue and additional merchandising opportunities. By the time of Rogers' death in 1998, they had amassed approximately $100 million, $175 million today, wealth generated primarily through merchandising rights and business ventures rather than their performing careers. These 15 Golden Age stars reveal a fascinating pattern of wealth creation that contradicts popular assumptions about celebrity fortunes. While today's entertainment figures openly discuss business ventures, these pioneering wealthy performers often kept their financial acumen hidden behind carefully maintained public images. The biggest misconception about Golden Age wealth was that it came from high salaries, observed a financial historian. In reality, the truly rich stars understood something fundamental. Ownership creates wealth, not income. Whether they were buying land like Bob Hope, acquiring rights like William Boyd, or building businesses like Lucille Ball, these figures were accumulating assets rather than simply earning paychecks. What makes these wealth stories particularly remarkable is that they occurred without the obvious entrepreneurial paths available to contemporary celebrities. Without social media platforms or direct-to-consumer brands, these stars had to identify business opportunities, often completely disconnected from their entertainment careers. Perhaps most striking is how many of these financially successful stars maintained modest public personas while accumulating substantial fortunes. Jimmy Stewart continued projecting his everyman image while building an investment portfolio that would impress Wall Street professionals. Fred McMurray played middle-class fathers on television while acquiring thousands of acres of valuable California real estate. The stealth wealth approach of Golden Age stars reflected both personal values and industry expectations, noted a cultural historian. The studio system encouraged performers to appear accessible rather than overtly wealthy. Simultaneously, many of these stars had experienced the Great Depression firsthand and preferred financial security over conspicuous consumption. For modern audiences rediscovering these legendary performers, these glimpses into their business achievements add new dimensions to familiar images, revealing the strategic minds behind the carefully crafted personas that entertain generations. These weren't just talented performers, but financial visionaries who recognized opportunities to build wealth through ownership decades before such approaches became standard practice.